welcome to Kankakee Podcast, where we talk about the people and places of Kankakee County. I'm Jake Lamore, and our guest on this episode published her first nonfiction work, My Soul Contract, a teaching memoir of trauma, truth, and transformation in January of 2022. And Micki's love of writing can only be surpassed by her love of being a wife, mother, and now a grandmother, as she and her husband reside in rural Kankakee County, where they've raised their two sons. Now, she's quenched her desire to help others by becoming a certified transformational life coach and meditation instructor in 2019. Call her a hippie, and you've entered her world and her heart. I'm pleased to welcome Micki Abels to the podcast.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's so nice to be here.
It's great to have you here.
It's a privilege.
I do have to ask, where does Micki come in? Because you do have, I see this name Kimberly Abels.
Right.
And then I see Micki.
Right.
I want to know.
Okay.
What's the...
Gosh, it's the first time I've ever been asked.
What? Are you kidding me? I mean, that was literally one of the first things that came to my mind when you contacted me. I'm like, I understand we all have different names. I know I do.
Right.
But, Kimberly and Micki seem to be very different.
They are different. And here's how the story goes. So when my parents started having children, they decided that my dad would name all the girls and my mom would name all the boys. Well, there were no boys, so my dad got to name each of us. And my oldest sister's, was named one thing and called something else. I was named one thing and called something else. So by the time my little sister was born, they said, we're going to call her and name her the same thing. But in the interim of all of that, even though my dad named me Kimberly, people started calling me Kimmy, which he
didn't like that.
No. So about the time I was a year old, he changed it to Micki, and it's stuck ever since. So, yeah.
So it's not a middle name?
No.
Okay.
No.
Huh. Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
I can't remember if you talked about that in your book or not. I don't think you...
I don't think I do.
I don't think so. Not that I can remember anyway.
No.
I know you talked about your family, your siblings and things like that, but I didn't remember where the Micki part comes in. But that's
my dad.
Okay. So I have to know, what is a transformational life coach?
Okay, so...
Or a certified transformational life coach.
That just means I have my certification.
Right.
So I can practice and be a life coach, and where the transformational part of it comes in, and I've actually shortened that because I also like to say I am intuitive. So I bring that into my coaching as well. But transformation is just anything. You're changing. We are constantly evolving. So that's what that means. It's just you're coming in, I'm meeting you where you're at. We talk about where you want to be, what are your desires, what are your goals, and then we work towards that together.
Okay, so it's exactly what it sounds like. Yeah. You're helping guide someone through a transition in their life.
Right.
And it sounds like you went through, just by reading My Soul Contract, you went through so many different hoops and things to get to this point in your life. And that's what the book is about. It says in there that it's a teaching memoir. And there's so many fascinating stories in this book. A big portion of it, focuses on the falling out you had with your parents and some of your other family members.
Right.
And then it goes to, how I processed all of that.
Right.
And got almost out of my head, right? You finally get out of your head, because we all are in our heads too much to where we're missing out on real life and what's happening outside of our own brains.
Exactly.
And there's just the journey there. I mean, you got ghost stories in there. You've got, I want to hear about all of that and your take on all of that. And of course, all of that is in the book. We don't want to give all of it away.
Right.
But in your words, how would you like to say this really started for you? Did it start with that conflict with your family?
The conflict was definitely the springboard for it, because what I determined was after that happened is I had no tools to heal. I had no techniques. I wasn't taught anything. And that's no fault of anybody's, but when you are raised by a generation that didn't deal with problems, they weren't talked about openly. It was much more comfortable if we could just kind of sweep them under the rug and forget about them. So this was not a skill that I had. So I had to figure that out for myself. What I started doing is, after a while and just feeling very stuck is probably the best word for it, not knowing really what to do, not having any of those skills, I just began writing everything. So I kept journals. And I wrote about all of my feelings, everything that was going on, all of the things that were bothering me, the things that I wanted to work towards. And those journals are actually what became the book.
So as you're writing the book, you're going back through your old journals, or like you're starting at the beginning of those and you're rereading those?
Right.
So when you started the process of writing the book, was that the first thing you did? Was go back in those journals and start rereading them?
Right. So I did a lot of research because this was all new for me. I never had written a book before. I didn't go to school to learn about literature or any of that, or writing. So, I had just listened to a whole lot of, thank goodness for YouTube. There's a lot of people on there that help with a lot of things, and a lot of guidance from there and other people, people that publish books, other authors, and just to kind of get an outline and a timeline for yourself, decide how you want to do that and how you want to organize it and how that's going to work for you. And so that was kind of the starting point.
And what was it like going back and reading? Did you read every single journal,
what I could,
word for word, or what you could make out?
Yes.
Is that what you're saying? Because of your handwriting?
Yeah, I could.
You couldn't read your handwriting?
I should have been a doctor. Yeah. No, it...
should have used a typewriter and then eventually a computer.
Yes.
And,
But I will tell you, not to interrupt that flow, but there is something very... very soothing and very therapeutic about the actual act of writing. So what I found is, rather than typing on a keyboard, it was actually letting all of that energy just flow out of my fingertips. It was leaving my body almost. And when I would get done writing and just kind of letting all of that go, there was just such an immense calm that I would feel. And so I just, of course, just kept with the journals. And so a lot of it is, like you said, a lot of scribbles. It was done very quickly. Had to organize all of it and put it all into different orders. And like I say in the book, it's not necessarily in chronological order, but it's in an order that helped me as I looked at different things and different aspects. It helped my healing process.
Yeah, as you were looking back, you're like, okay, it kind of went like this.
Right.
I fall under this category. There is a stigma attached to journaling that I think a lot of us feel. I know I do, that it's just, you feel so silly. Like, you're like, really? You want me to write down my thoughts? Mm-hmm. Like, dear diary, I did this today, and it's just, there is a stigma attached to that. And I know myself, I've had a hard time breaking through that barrier, because I still, to this day, have not gotten in a good habit of journaling my thoughts that I really should be getting down on paper, just to go through that process of transferring that energy, trying to get it out of my body and almost like you could say negative energy
Right.
or conflicting energy,
Right.
and get it
Pent
out of
up.
your
It's just right. Yeah.
yeah, and get that out of your body. And so I'm glad you're bringing that up. Did you find that was very hard to get into that practice?
Of journaling?
Yeah.
No, I think I had so much rage.
It was just like, okay, I'm gonna do it.
Yes.
Or was it
Yeah.
a friend that brought that up to you, or was it a
I think I had
therapist?
just
Or
heard it through the years, probably on different shows that I watched or different people that I paid attention to that, had gone through similar processes. Yeah, so it was just something that I was drawn to do. So, yeah.
yeah. And I know the mishap between your side of the family and then the other side of the family.
Mhm.
We won't get into the thick of that, but going through that, I've never been through anything like that. So how can you describe
Mm.
that? Where you're literally your parents are alive, your siblings or
Mm.
in-laws of any kind, they're alive, but there
Mhm.
is literally a brick wall between the
Mhm.
two of you, and you don't
Yeah.
exist.
Yeah. Yeah.
What is that?
Um,
How can you explain your situation without going into
it felt like my foundation crumbled. So even though I have the love of my husband and my boys, the people that raised me were no longer available to me. And we had done that to ourselves. I take full responsibility, and it goes back to we didn't know how. We didn't know how to talk about it. We didn't know how to fix it. I tried. I had many attempts where I did. And what I discovered over time is that, those things that you yearn for and you need, um, that are oftentimes projected in things that we watch on TV, the things, right? The perfect,
oh my
perfect
gosh,
family. And
yes.
so, where is this? Where is mine? It wasn't happening. But before this happened, before this actual division happened, I mean, you could have asked me, gosh, do you see this happening in your life between you and your family? And I would have said, heck no, there's no way. There's no way. So it's just a buildup of things. And I think when you can reflect on it, you can really see where there were definite patterns within the family, not only in my own family, but in my grandparents and how my mother was raised, how my father was raised. Um, and so, yeah, to just have, I think the hardest part for me is it was a definite loss. It's you grieve that. But what made it even harder is it wasn't a loss, as you said, as someone passed away, they didn't die, it was a choice. And so that was very difficult.
That's the hardest part.
Mhm.
And so you start journaling at that point, and that's kind of like where it picks up. And what was the
Mhm.
next thing you picked up? Because I know there has to be someone listening that's going through this right now,
Mhm.
or has gone through it,
Right.
or they're in the middle of it.
Mhm.
What was the next thing for you?
I think I realized that through the journaling and through all of the things that I had, the tips and techniques that I had set up for myself that were actually working and I was seeing some progress, I thought, gosh, I don't want anybody to go through this and not have tools and techniques that they can use. They're going to go through it in their own way, but if they can look towards something or look for some help, at least there would be some guidance there. So then I did start thinking about, gosh, maybe I should write, maybe I should do this. And so that was my intention for the book, is to get this out so that I can help somebody.
And then, you know, getting through all of this, as I said, you tried so many different things, and you really dived into your, I guess, spirituality is
Mhm.
what is
Yeah,
probably a good way to frame that.
yeah.
And you did something that I thought was very interesting. I don't know if is it summoning ghosts? What did you or spirits? What was the
Oh,
terminology in the book of when you were attempting to you wanted to be get in touch with like your in-laws, right? That had passed
Oh, right,
away.
right. So
What was that process you went through? Because I was just like, I don't know how I would feel about trying to conjure. I don't know if it's conjuring spirits that you were doing,
Yes.
or if it's that just,
So this was a suggestion from a friend of mine who had gone to see a medium, and this is a practice that he did. So what you do is you think of a sign or a symbol that represents that person that you would like to hear from, at least acknowledge their presence, have them show you that they're present, and to choose that sign or that symbol so that when you see it, you know that they are thinking of you. That was the basis of this kind of experiment. And though I had circumstances when I was younger and I had things happen in that realm, which I always thought was very cool, but it wasn't anything I talked about. It was weird, right? So no one would be like, "Hey, I think I had this weird thing happen, and there's people running in my house." And yeah.
What were some of those things that you experienced as a child?
Oh, so it wasn't so much when I was a child, but probably, definitely when I was a young adult.
Oh, okay.
I had some things happen, and in my married life. So when we moved to our home, I would often hear I'd put the kids down for their naps, and I would go downstairs to do laundry or what have you, and I would hear running upstairs. And I thought for sure they had gotten up out of bed, went up all ready to put them back in line, and they're sound asleep. And then I'd go downstairs and it would happen again. I'd also hear a lot of, I know this sounds kind of like what a lot of people say, but there was actually banging on the pipes that I could hear. So then I just
And you're living in a single family home.
Right. So then I thought, and those things never scared me. I just always thought, oh, that's kind of cool. So I would just call out and say to the person that I know that died in that house, hey,
Yeah.
I hear you. That's fine.
The one that got me, though, was you're in your office.
Oh.
And the chair, right? Your
Yes.
chair someone was like pulling your chair.
Yeah.
Now that one, if that was me, I would be long gone, man. I'd be like, I quit. You will not see me here again.
Yeah, that was a good one. Felt like someone was standing behind me and just pulling on the back of my chair. And I turned around the first time and I thought, gosh, excuse me, whoever that was, they're very quick and down the hallway. But at the same time, I knew there's no way someone could have gotten down the hallway in that amount of time. Went back to what I was doing, and it happened a couple more times. I finally thought, okay, went down to the office, to the office where I know there's kind of a prankster guy. I thought, all right, what are you doing? He just total straight faced. And he said, I'm not doing anything. I thought, okay. All right. So I thought, okay, that was weird. And then I had the tape in my adding machine.
Yes, that also would have set me off and caused me to go running. That's stuff you see in possession movies.
Yeah. And it just has 11111, 11111, and it's just going all by itself. And the first time it happened, I thought, okay, maybe I pushed a button, maybe I did something to make it happen. But then it happened again. And at this point, I had already told a coworker about it. So when it happened again, I got up from my chair, put my hands up, and I said, come over here, look at what's going on. And it was just, going by itself.
Yeah. And then that kind of leads me into the next thing about, when you did that technique that you learned from a friend. I remember for your mother-in-law, it was a brown couch, right?
Yes.
So you do this exercise and you say, you pick an object,
yeah,
right?
Right. Something that's symbolic between your relationship, something that's not so common, right? So you're not going to say, oh, it's a yellow flower. So
right. So you pick a brown couch for your mother-in-law.
Right.
And then it's not long after that you start seeing brown couches.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I don't believe you or anything like that. I just wonder in my mind, do you think it's really the connection between, another spirit, or is it just the fact that we know our brains are now looking for that object now, and we're out there? You know what
I know
I'm
what you're
sure you've been
saying.
asked
Oh,
that,
sure.
but that's what came to my mind, because I have definitely noticed things like that in my life that are kind of consecutive. You
Right.
gave, and that's not the only example you gave. There was
Right.
at least two other examples that
Right.
you went through, but the brown
Right.
couch was one of them, and it would keep showing up at these times when it was like, it was just perfect timing.
Yeah.
I guess you could
Yes.
say.
And in odd
Coincidental.
places. Yes.
Uh,
Yes. You could say
Coincidental and
coincidental.
yes, and odd places still.
Yeah.
But I just wonder if it's just our minds are now looking for that. And
I mean, you could say that. And I could even think that. In fact, I even write about this, as there's a few times where even doing this experiment and not really fully being like, oh, okay, this will be fun. But when things would come up, I would, no, that wasn't it. Was that it? I don't know. Maybe that was. So when I did finally almost run into this brown couch, it was a winter day. We had had a bad storm. I'm traveling home, and in this country road, there's no street lamp in between for a mile, right? And so I'm driving along, and I see this big, humongous, I can't figure out what it is, can't make it out, and have to swerve around it. And at that time, I thought, gosh, I should go back and whatever this is, get it out of the road, because someone's going to hit this, someone's going to get hurt. And I thought, no, that's dangerous. I'm just going to go on. So then it wasn't until the next morning where I'm coming upon the exact same spot. And I look off to the side, and sure enough, there's a brown couch. So the idea is this. It is, oftentimes people think, oh, I see cardinals, that's my mom. And it's not so much that the cardinal, the object, the sign is the spirit of your person, of your mother, whoever that may be. It is a symbol so that you know, in that moment, they are thinking of you, or they're on your mind. And so it's just to affirm those things. So, and I understand what you're saying. And a lot of times we can say, gosh, I have an active imagination and I'm thinking of these things. But here's the thing about our imaginations, is that it is, in the spiritual world, understood that your imagination is part of your intuition. Everybody is intuitive. Every single one of us are born with that gift. It's just over time, those things kind of get pushed aside, and we're living in this very physical world, and our outward senses are being piqued all of the time. And so we're not really paying attention to our inner senses and that intuition that is there. It's just that you're familiar with it. You just kind of go, But oftentimes it stops there. And we go, that was weird, or gosh, or we have a weird dream and we think, gosh, you'll never believe this. It was so strange. But we're really definitely supposed to be paying attention to those things.
And I think, right, and I agree, no matter what, if it's actually the spirit of a loved one that is attempting to contact you, or whether it's just your mind doing it, I feel like it can still be helpful.
Yes.
Oh,
absolutely.
I mean, regardless of the outcome, our minds are powerful. And, that's another thing your book touches on. Another thing that you discovered while looking for tools to put in your toolbox for your, physical, mental, emotional health was meditation.
Yes.
And you talk about some very vivid things that you have experienced through meditation, where loved ones that have passed away have come up and given you an answer of maybe you're looking for help from on something. In particular, it was once again your mother-in-law, and you were having a rough patch with your husband, and she was like, just love him. And so, was it your mother-in-law? Was it just your mind? I don't know, but regardless, it was probably helpful.
It's what I needed. It's exactly what I needed. Yeah.
So, Getting into meditation, that's something myself that I've recently discovered in the last year or so that
Mhm.
I find very helpful. I'm still kind of new to it, and there's just kind of like yoga. There's
Mhm.
several different types of
Right,
meditation.
right.
And one thing that I thought was crazy when I was reading your book was you were talking about the first meditation you went to, and it was like an hour and a half long. And I thought, oh my gosh, and 90 minutes of meditating. It's like I do 10 minutes a day and I can't handle anymore. So I read that and I'm like, wow.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
and you are a meditation instructor now. So
Mhm.
when it comes to meditation, how do you explain that to people, or how do you approach that?
Hmm. So I teach or instruct a mindful meditation. It's also about healing. It is about letting go of everything that's physical. So that's letting go of your physical body, your physical attachments to this humanness, this world that we're living in. And when you hear a lot of times people saying, letting go, that's all that is. It's just letting go of those attachments to those things. Um, I brought up our senses earlier. You're oftentimes listening to very nice, soothing music. You've got your eyes closed, so you're already shutting down the sense of sight. You're making sure that what you're listening to is one thing and it's very soothing. And soon, hopefully, you get comfortable, and so your body's not pulling and nagging at you, which it will do because you're not used to doing this. So you're going to sit there and go, oh, my back is hurting and my hips hurt, and oh gosh, I got to go take, the ground beef out for dinner. And so you're wandering, right? And your
Yes.
body and your mind are going to do this because it's not something that you're used to doing. Even very seasoned meditationers have this happen all the time. So we just get distracted by certain things, and then you just use your breath and you come back and just be very, kind with yourself and come back to the breath and start over. And that's all you can do is just begin again, begin again, begin again. And soon that practice becomes a lot easier, and that practice then becomes a skill. And what I found is that it is so healing and it brings me so much peace. And I've gotten so many answers um, in it and had wonderful experiences that I certainly understand how people can sit for hours on end because it's a wonderful place to be.
Yeah, I'm hoping I'll get to a point where I can understand that. Like I said, I'm still very new
Mhm.
to that whole process, but
Yeah.
it is definitely intriguing. I think it's been about a year, that I've been practicing a
Mhm.
little bit of meditation here and there, and
Right.
it's definitely been helpful. So I suggest anyone to give that a try, and they can
Yes.
even, because you teach classes or you do that on a is that a regular basis thing, or is that here and there, or
Yes.
how does that work?
So I have an office that I take clients for meditation. We have a small, intimate group of people that I can take there. Excuse me. And that's also where I take clients for the coaching. But I also will travel around and do meditation classes in our area and also outside the area. But yeah, yoga studios oftentimes are places where we can do that. I've got something going now once a month at Limber Mind and Body. So
Okay,
yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah.
And Melanie
Yes.
is, yes,
Yes.
she's wonderful.
Melissa.
Melissa, not Melanie. At least I
Melissa.
had the M right. My
You did.
goodness.
You
But
did.
Melissa, yeah, she's
Yeah.
very kind. I met
Yes.
her a couple times.
Yes, she
Very
is.
nice lady.
Yeah.
Um, I kind of going back to what some of the things that you were talking about earlier, the habits
Mm.
that we pick up on as kids from our parents, whether
Mhm.
it's direct or indirect, that every time you brought that up in your book, that just hit me and made me
Mm.
realize so many things
Yeah.
about the habits
Mhm.
that I've picked up
Yeah.
and to try and unravel those, because that's also a part of your journey, but it's also a part of everyone's journey.
Right.
It's just those little things. I think
Mhm.
you talked about the classic "Because I Said So."
Mhm.
I'm trying to remember what some of the other ones were. You can probably point those out
I'm
to me.
trying to think too. I think just overall to know that, I mean, we are just sponges, when we're young. And so, um, I know that in the research I've done is that from the time we're actually in the third trimester in our mother's womb up until the age of 7, our brainwave patterns are in theta. This is just our very um, dreamy kind of state. We're just very creative and we're just taking everything in. We haven't even learned how to analyze or be analytical in any way. So as we're taking all of that in and we're listening, we're observing, and we're picking up on habits and practices of other people. And those habits stay with us for a lifetime.
Or not if we approach them a certain
Yes,
way, and
right.
depending on if that's a good or bad habit, right?
Right. And that's for us to discern, right? So then we can look at it and we say, hey, is this something that is my truth? Is this something I believe in? Is this a behavior or a way that I want to handle something or approach something? Or is this inherited because this is what I was shown? And so we're just very good mimickers, and there's some comfort in that. Definitely, we're familiar with that, so it feels comfortable. So we're just very tuned into just reenacting what we've seen.
What were some of those for you that,
Mm.
maybe you realized that were not to your truth, and maybe you were showing that behavior with your 2 boys,
Mhm.
what were anything come to mind in
I would
particular?
think just as you're saying that, I'm remembering just really how difficult it was for me to learn how to talk about things. That wasn't something we did in my house. My husband's family, total opposite. In fact, when I met them and, I would be in, we would be I'll be in the living room and say there was a something between my husband and his dad, and they were arguing, and I think, oh gosh, this is bad. I don't want to be here. I wanted to like shoot out of there. But then they would either agree to disagree, they would fix it, but always at the end of the day, they always made up and everything was great. It was talked about, it was looked at, everybody knew how everybody felt about it. And that was so foreign to me. I thought this was weird. So that was one of the big things. So I was noticing definitely that I had taken on my family's behaviors of not dealing with things, not talking about things openly and honestly. And if we did, there was always, I would say, we would walk away hurt, or there wasn't really any resolution to it. So that was definitely something that I had to work on.
It's almost like that was a foreshadowing event
Mhm.
to that,
Yeah, for
that
sure.
ultimate, I don't know what you want to call it,
Split.
split. Yeah, that ultimate split that
Yeah.
happened, obviously many years ago at this
Yes,
point.
yes.
What's something else you want people to know about yourself or about My Soul Contract?
Mm,
You're celebrating, it's been out for more than a year now at this
right.
point, but still full of helpful information. It's an easy read book. Like I said, I found that I could relate to a lot of
Mhm.
different things like we're talking about now, those
Right,
those habits we pick
right.
up as kids.
Yeah.
Um, so many different things.
I would like to share that I think really I know what my intention was for, but I think the premise, you can come away knowing that if you wanna change something, you have the means to do that. You have to dive in. You have to become very aware of your behaviors and the things that you're doing that you don't wanna do, and be able to change those. Um, I think the toughest part is it's very hard for us to be honest and truthful with ourselves. So I would say that was probably the hardest part of my journey and what I share in the book. Um, it's very easy to kind of point fingers and blame other people, but we really need to dig deep inside and figure out how we need to change how we react to things. Um, And when we can do that, and we can recognize our behaviors, and we can actually recognize that old, open, unhealed wound that's been sitting there for so long. And then when something happens, we can recognize it and go, oh, there's that thing. There's that thing. So then we're not staying in a reactive period for so long, which really just causes us more stress, which, as we know, is detrimental to our health in so many ways. And so, yeah, to just be very honest and open with yourself. Pay attention to your thoughts, how you're talking to yourself. As much as we do outwardly for ourselves, as far as eating right, exercising, doing all of those things, our mind and our hearts and everything inward is just as important. But we tend to put those things on the back burner until we can't anymore, because we are going to have some kind of ailment or something come up for us that's wants our attention.
And that leads perfectly, I think, into another great takeaway from reading your book was the daily check-in that you do with yourself and that habit that you created for yourself. And that's something that I never put too much thought into before. So how does your daily check-in work? If you want to share that little bit of information.
So I started this because I thought, gosh, it's so mundane, really. We're like, oh, how you doing? How you doing? You know, it's just kind of a thing that we do.
Yeah, we all say the same thing. Oh, I'm fine. Or, you know.
And let's face it, if someone were to stop and say, gosh, you know, and really unload on you, you'd think, oh, that's 10 minutes of my life I'll never get back. Right?
Yep.
So do we really want to know? So the daily check-in came when I thought, gosh, you know, we really need to pay attention. When I really got in tune with my own thoughts and how I was speaking to myself, which, by the way, if you pay attention, we're not very kind to ourselves.
No. Yeah, we can be very mean to ourselves sometimes, yes.
So change that dialogue to how you would talk to your best friend in that supportive way. So kind of stemmed from that. And then I thought, gosh, I want to see what am I thinking about today? So I go through, I think there's about 7 of them. I check in, what are my thoughts? What's on the top of my, what am I thinking about today? And then I check in with my heart. How does my heart feel today? My spirit, my soul, my inner child, huge one.
Yeah, the inner child one was very interesting. And when you check on your inner child, you always choose a specific, it's the same one, right?
I have a picture, yeah.
Yeah, and so when you check in with your inner child, how does that work?
That came from actually a meditation that I did, and it was so profound, and I received so many gifts from it. And in this meditation, me as a 5-year-old, 4-year-old, walking alongside me, and in the meditation, I say, that I want to hold her, and she says, no, I want to walk beside you. And that was so pivotal to me, because I thought, yes, you are walking beside me. You have so many answers to my life questions. You are so wise. You have all of these things that you can share with me that I've buried. And so to check in with the inner child, it's just also remaining playful, making sure that you're being creative and you're in that mindset, you're in that, just to lighten up a little bit.
It's good to have that reminder, and also remember that, as you get older, maybe you're not 29 anymore, but let's say you're 50 now, but you still are 29 somewhere in there, because you've lived that age now, or you're 10 or you're 5. You are all of those numbers now. So it's you're a collection of ages.
Very true.
Yeah.
Very true.
In all stages of life. So you can find all of these things and more in My Soul Contract. It's a teaching memoir of trauma, truth, and transformation. That's available on Amazon. And is it available anywhere locally?
No, and right now just online, Amazon.com, as you said, and BarnesandNoble.com.
Okay, some
Yeah.
Barnes and Noble.
Mm-hmm.
And then Micki is spelt with an I. It's Micki. Abels, Abels. You can obviously look all that up in the show links or the show notes, excuse me. And then if people want to contact you for, transitional coaching or
Mm-hmm.
meditating,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe a question came up after, they read through your book.
Sure. So you can contact me at my website, MickiAbels.com.
Okay.
Or I'm on social media on Facebook and Instagram.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to add?
I thank you so much for this opportunity.
Yeah.
It really means a lot to me. I feel privileged to be able to talk with you, and just really, I think we're embracing our own health in a much different way, and we're much more open to receiving information and different ways of doing that. So I just wish everybody good health and happiness.
Well, thank you for being here. I
Mhm.
appreciate you reaching out, and it was
Thank you.
fun having this conversation, and definitely, reading your book definitely opened some doors and windows
Mhm.
and in my brain to think, oh, wow, I have that problem or issue too.
I'm glad it was
You know,
relatable.
yes.
Oh, I should also plug, I have written another book.
Oh, you have?
Yes.
Since this. Okay.
Well, actually, I wrote this one before, and it's a children's book, so it's quite different.
Oh, cool.
But I did write this one before I even wrote my soul contract, and I'm just now getting to where it's been illustrated, and I have it in the works, and so it will be published soon, and it's called What Made You Smile Today.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds adorable.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well,
so
congratulations.
You can look for that pretty soon.
Yeah. Well, you might have to be back to talk about that, right?
Okay.
So, yeah,
right.
Definitely. Well, Micki, thank you again.
Thank you. I appreciate it.